If we have a disease introduction in what we call a monoculture, so a lot of, for example, Kansas is wheat and Nebraska is corn. So when a new disease moves in, if it takes hold and spreads quickly, and we don't have a source of resistance to that disease, it can devastate a crop.
From the economic standpoint, the agricultural industry should be very concerned about ag biosecurity because if an outbreak occurs, it can result in pretty substantial losses, economic losses in terms of output, has pretty substantial trade implications. We would lose trading partners or at least those trade relationships would be substantially affected.
So agricultural biosecurity is an area where we try to understand what are the problems that might affect agriculture, that might impact agriculture, like the introduction of pathogens. It could be pathogens of animals or it could be pathogens of humans. And biosecurity is the protection of our agricultural system. We're trying to protect it from those biological agents.
I think if you're looking at agriculture holistically, because it's a spectrum, right? I mean, there's biosecurity, there's access, there's production, there's distribution. So across that spectrum of how agriculture affects people's lives, at every juncture along that way, you have every level of government. So I don't think, unless you grew it yourself, and even then, because of the seed laws, I can't think of a single item that you would eat or grow that wouldn't be affected in some way by either local, state, or federal policy. It's absolutely huge, from the safety of the food that you eat to what comes into the country pest and disease-wise to whether or not you can have chickens in your backyard. Those are all things that government decides that are all agricultural related.
These aren't frequent events. We don't experience them very often, and so preparing for them is challenging because there are a lot of unknowns. So first, figuring out what exactly we need or should be doing is a challenge. Another challenge is getting individuals to undertake these potentially costly actions to mitigate this risk. The benefits of these actions aren't always realized by the individuals taking the actions themselves. They generate society-wide benefits, and so getting individuals to undertake actions that might cost them money, resources, can be challenging.
In the 80s, we didn't really deal with the international trade levels as much as we do now. Everything is traded. That's why you can have pineapples in January in Colorado, right? And that brings whole other levels of governance so that we can trade with organizations like the EU and things like that. So as the world evolves and technology evolves, not only does our disease technology have to get better, but our governance in general has to get better and more cohesive as well.
So we know a lot about the genes that are turned on when a bacterial pathogen, which is predominantly what I work with, meets up with a plant cell. It literally injects proteins into the plant cell. In some cases, the bacteria might inject a protein that actually makes its way into the nucleus of the plant cell and alters the plant cell's gene regulation. So it turns on genes, and those genes that it turns on often are genes that are to feed the bacteria. So it turns on sugar transporters to transport sugars outside the plant cell to where the bacteria is so that the bacteria can grow. We know how to make plants resistant to one or a few pathogens at a time. But can we make plants that are broadly resistant, that will resist multiple different kinds of pathogens at the same time? We call that the holy grail of plant pathology.
Everybody wants to be able to trade. You want to be able to trade or sell your produce, and you can't do it if your animals are sick or if your crops are dying. So everybody has the same goal. It's just the arguments over how to get there, really, I think.